Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another Division video, and in today's video we are going to be talking about patch 1.6. Yesterday I did a video on Last Stand based on the information we got from the state of the game, so if you guys haven't seen that then I will link it down below. But today a brand new blog post went out and it gave us a lot of details, it's a very long post on some of the stuff coming to patch 1.6. So in this video I'm going to give you guys an executive summary and basically go over all the stuff that'll be in the patch, but then I will also be following up over the next few days with some more in-depth videos on some of those topics, because some of them do deserve like a little bit more attention, but if I were to do that in this video, then we'd be here for an hour. Anyway, that's the plan. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Comment down below if you have any questions, but let's get started. So, as a quick summary, Update 1.6 is of course coming to all platforms on the same date, same thing with Last Stand as well, and everything in 1.6 is free to all players. So everything I'm about to speak about in this video is going to be completely free. I don't need the Season Pass, but of course Last Stand with the PvP specific mode, that is paid content. So, Update 1.6 will of course bring the usual regular balancing tweaks and changes. It will expand the map with DZ7, 8 and 9. It's going to be adding new special events. It's going to revamp named gear. And it's also going to release a new difficulty level, but it will not bring a new world tier. So there will not be a gear score increase, so all the gear that you have right now will still be relevant. The new difficulty level will be applied to certain missions. So that's kind of quick summary, but if we start diving down into categories, first up under the Dark Zone, there will be new landmarks in DZ7, 8 and 9, and these will have multiple waves of enemies. So if you guys go to a landmark right now, there are enemies there, you kill the enemies, you kill the boss, job done. In these new landmarks, after you've killed the boss, there will be more enemies that come out, so they will of course keep presenting a challenge for, a period of time. Also, clearing landmarks will now award you with additional loot that will be placed directly into your inventory, so that way you don't need to extract it. So once again, for the PvE players out there that don't necessarily like the Dark Zone or the PvP side of it, or don't like kind of getting ganked and having your loot stolen, then again, you can go and farm landmarks, get some loot, and you don't have to worry about extracting it. So that then means that in the Dark Zone, you would have supply drops and landmark loot, two things you can get without fear of having to extract it. Also, as mentioned yesterday, fast travel between Dark Zone checkpoints will be made available. That is, of course, when you go into the checkpoint, you can jump to another one, but fast travel between checkpoints does count as leaving the Dark Zone, so if you are carrying contaminated loot, you will lose it, so bear that in mind. Moving on to contamination events, this is a new event also spoken about in the kind of data mine stuff a couple of weeks back. It is now confirmed. The premise for it is basically that the body bags of like all the virus and the dead people and stuff have been piling up in the subways, and this has increased the strength of the virus, so the cleaners have started to move in to try and burn it out. But of course, given the cleaners don't discern between good and bad, they just burn everyone, then civilians are also getting hurt in the process. So roughly every hour in the Dark Zone, kind of like supply drops, elite cleaners will appear in underground locations in the Dark Zone, and it's your job to stop them. However, it's worth noting that in these sections, for these durations, the contamination levels in the underground have reached deadly levels, so your virus filters will no longer be able to resist them. So you'll only be able to be here for short periods of time, so you're going to have to try and sort of balance it out, run down, kill the enemies, get out before you kill yourself. Moving on from there to Dark Zone leaderboards, only very quick on this because we've spoken about these in the past, but leaderboards are going to be added. They will track a wide variety of different things ranging from both PvP and PvE, and all the tracked activities will then be turned into a total score. And then leaderboards are ranked into 3 tiers, and rewards are given out on a weekly and monthly basis based on your placement in those tiers. After that, speaking about the new difficulty, Legendary difficulty. This is designed for hardcore players. It's going to be added to 3 missions: Times Square, Warrengate Power Plant, and the Napalm Production Site. It's designed to be the most challenging mode in the game, more so than heroic incursions. And it won't just be the same enemies with like more health and things like that from before. All the content from those missions has been stripped out and replaced with more powerful, smarter LMB troops. And it also sounds from the post like they're going to have much more improved AI, almost like the Hunters, because they're going to react much more so to players, to skills. And also they said in the post that you don't want to get close to these agents, because if you know what Hunters do when you get close, then the LMB will do something similar. So long story short, sounds kind of like LMB meet Hunters in these missions. So expect a tough challenge, and of course if you guys are good enough to do it, then Legendary difficulty will reward you with unique vanity items that you cannot get anywhere else in the game, which I'm super happy to hear about. It's something that myself and quite a few other people have been asking for quite some time. Basically unique vanity items that when you wear them, people can look at you and know where you've come from. So if you're wearing, say, the legendary vanity items, someone can look at you and be like, oh, that guy's really good at PvE, he does all his like legendary missions, and of course we know from yesterday, there will also be some tied to Last Stand, the PvP kind of progression system, so, you know, you'll be able to a certain extent, look at someone and get an idea of where they've come from. Next up, moving on to exotic items and a new gear set. Named weapons and gear items are now called exotics, and they're going to have their own colour. Each of these items is also going to have flavour and lore text, which is going to be really nice. Also, on the weapon front, each of the exotic weapons is now going to get its own unique talent, so any of the named high-end weapons right now will be converted to exotics, and they're all going to get new unique talents. The other 2 talents will of course be rolled randomly, but examples they gave were Hungry Hog will now have a talent called Glutton, where if you kill a target, it increases your damage dealt by 20% until you stop firing. So if you were to throw, say, 200 bullets into your Hungry Hog, and you then killed someone after the first 10 bullets, then provided you don't let go of the trigger, then for the remaining 190 bullets, then you're doing 20% more damage. Another example is Tenebrae with the talent Lights Out. Destroying an enemy weak point resets your skill cooldowns for nearby group members. It is, however, worth mentioning that the talents, the exotic weapon talents, will not work with Alpha Bridge, so you won't then be able to take that kind of overpowered talent and apply it to something else. They're also going to be introducing exotic weapon sets. You need to have 2 specific exotic weapons equipped to unlock these talents. So one example of that is the weapon Valkyria, the kind of gold, horrendous looking SMG that nobody ever uses. That's now being split into 2 weapons, Hilda and Air, and when you have these both equipped, they synergize quite nicely and you unlock the talent. All these changes will be retroactive, and there will also be exotic caches introduced, and these will guarantee you an exotic item, and the caches are weekly rewards from the legendary difficulty missions. Bear in mind that's just the caches. You'll of course be able to get exotic weapons and gear from other sources, but if you want a guaranteed source, then caches, legendary missions. Moving over to gear set changes, again I'm going to go into slightly more detail on this a little bit later, but very quick summary, Alpha Bridge is getting a nerf. Instead of the 4-piece sharing all the talents for the same type of weapons, it will now only share the free talent when you have both weapons equipped, except of course exotic talents, so think of that as like the last one. So you can still use Alpha Bridge to get 4 talents on a weapon, just not 6. Frontline set will no longer lose critical chance bonus on 4-piece, that's the one where you have the shield and you lose the critical chance when you have the SMG. Instead, it will just remove the effect of any mod you have applied to the shield, so it would be like having a base ballistic shield, which is, you know, fine because it already makes it strong enough as it is, so you're then going to have an SMG that can crit with a base shield as opposed to something like the reactive or the assault or the kinetic mod to give you, more health. Reclaim It is going to become a support set, so your 4-piece will activate all support station mods, life support, immunizer and ammo cache, and your 2 and 3 pieces will increase support station range and duration respectively. Tactician's Authority will no longer lose the buffer after 10 seconds, but is instead going to lose it after using a skill. However, on top of that, there is going to be a new gear set added, which is called the Seeker set, and this set is designed to focus on body shots. Your 4-piece set bonus will give you guaranteed crit after landing 2 consecutive shots to the body, and that can be spread between multiple enemies. So in other words, it's a crit every 3rd shot, or a 33% crit chance set. Armor and Resistance is up next. Gear will come with base armor as usual, but the armor major bonus is going to be removed and it's going to be replaced with health. The idea is they want to try and get away from this notion that armor is best in slot. They're going to be rebalancing it, putting a bigger focus on health, so your toughness is going to be much more focused on stamina and health than it is on armor. Health is also going to be scaling much more linearly than armor, so it's easier to balance. And it also puts a bigger focus on healing and skill power again, because of course then you're going to be healing large chunks of health as opposed to armor. Also, all these changes will be retroactive, so armor will be replaced with health. You won't be able to have any kind of legacy items that hold on to these kind of special bonuses. Then, quick one on changes to skill power and skills. Skill power will work similar to armor in that it's more effective based on your world tier, so each time you go up a tier, you will need to spec more into skill power. So if you do want to be a skill power player, you're going to have to invest in it much more heavily. Diminishing returns will now kick in around 450,000 skill power, so if you do spec into it heavily, then it will only be at the kind of very top end that you start to see these diminishing returns. If you don't invest in skill power, then you're going to notice in 1.6 that your skills are considerably less effective. Sticky Bomb is getting some changes. It will now get a delayed detonation with a beeping sound before it explodes. First Aid is going to get a longer cooldown, which of course puts a bigger focus on skill power and skill haste. The First Aid Defibrillator will now heal in 2 stages. You'll get a first chunk and then a heal over time. And the Shock Turret will no longer do any damage. It will just purely be for CC. So it will shock people, hold them in place, but you won't be damaging them in the process. After that, quick note on PvP balancing. Hipfire stability when moving is going to be decreased, and a new hipfire camera has been added so that it kind of makes it a little bit harder to hipfire. It's going to require a little bit more skill to kind of keep that stable. The damage gap between body shots and headshots is going to be lowered. When combat rolling, there's now going to be a 1-second delay before you can roll again, so that should hopefully at least somewhat reduce the whole rolling around like Sonic in the Dark Zone trying to have a battle. You can also no longer reload your weapon while sprinting. Medkits can also now be used at full health to remove certain status effects. The Rejuvenated talent has been changed to give additional resistances to status effects. Adrenaline will no longer give an overheal from medkits, instead it will give a heal over time, and your enemy's health bar will flash whenever they use a medkit. Also, survivability talents like On the Move, Battle Buddy and Critical Save have seen some balancing changes. We don't know what they are just yet, but when they release the patch notes at some point nearer to the PTS, then I will let you guys know. Couple more things now. Economy changes. They're going to make it so that you can recalibrate items an unlimited amount of times, so you're no longer going to get unlucky and hit that cap and be like, well, now I'm stuck with this weapon and I can't do anything with it. Recalibration will be able to be done an unlimited amount of times. It will get progressively more expensive each time, but that cost will cap out after 5 recalibrations. Helping civilians will now reward you intel instead of pointless grey or blue items. High-end pistols in survival will no longer cost you division tech. The scavenger box will now scale with world tier, and some item prices have been tweaked. After that, speaking about something that I know a lot of people probably not going to be a fan of, in-game store. This is of course the microtransaction section of the video. Basically, they're going to be adding a new currency, which is effectively a currency that you buy. Bear in mind, none of this is mandatory and none of this will give you power. It is purely a cosmetic store. If you want to buy things that will let you look different, that is the only purpose of this store. So don't go thinking you can go and buy exotic weapons, because you can't. Basically, they're going to be adding a new currency, which you then buy, and these will then be coins that you can then take to a vendor in-game, and you can then purchase cool items from him. Examples of these would be weapon skins, backpack skins, that's a new one to be able to like make your backpack look different, or at least coloured differently, clothing items, so, you know, vanity items, emotes, which is something people have been asking for quite some time, so the ability to kind of get rid of some of those lesser used emotes on your wheel and get something cool, and there'll also be bundles that will basically contain a selection of items from those 4 categories. It is worth noting that when this service does go live, they are going to give everyone a small amount of this currency so you can buy a few things yourself, and you'll also be able to get a few from new play, because of course if you get achievements you can use those points to get some items free, but beyond that you're then going to need to buy them if you want them. The items on sale will also rotate on a weekly basis with the kind of weekly reset, so if you do want to grab things, then this cosmetic store is going to update relatively frequently. So, that's that bit. Last thing on the other changes section, they're also going to be making a few changes to survival. This is a really good one. Solo players in 1.6 will no longer end up in games with players queuing as a group, which is very, very important. Solo players in games like this, in like survival, battle royale, should always be able to fight on kind of an even footing. If you look at games like H1Z1, Arma, they all have it. They have solo queues and group queues. In fact, if you try and team up in a solo server in something like H1Z1 or Arma, you actually get banned. So in this one, basically, if you go into survival solo, then you will physically not be able to team up with anyone else. You won't be able to invite them to your team. So solo players will have a solo survival experience, group players will have a group player experience. And the other thing is, if you're going to go and revive anyone, in survival, it's going to cost you a medkit. That used to happen when you were trying to revive someone that's dead. Now if they're just downed, then it's going to cost you a medkit. So probably be sparing with your medkits. That's pretty much it. That is I appreciate the video is a little bit long anyway, but that is a kind of quick summary of all the information in that post. As mentioned, some of those topics are worth talking about in a little bit more detail, so do expect some more videos. There'll be one tomorrow, one on Sunday, one on Monday, and then probably some more after that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.